But I really wanted, especially for this next one, I've been really, really psyched to get Geek Commander in the house for this one, because I got to tell you, other than Loki and WandaVision, this was the one that I was really, really looking forward to. And I stayed up at 2 in the morning. I rolled the dice, even though we got burned by Boba Fett. I was like, no, I'm going to stay up and I'm going to watch it. And I have no regrets on She-Hulk. So, Brian, right out of the gate, I got to tell you, I loved it. It's like if I had a top 3 of Marvel shows on Disney Plus, I put Wanda because you never forget your first. I put Loki because that's just tying together the whole multiverse saga. And I'm going She-Hulk. I'm putting She-Hulk in there. I feel like it honored everything that came before and then set up for the future, where a lot of the other ones I had, like Moon Knight and even Miss Marvel, they were so encapsulated in trying to establish who this character was. And they had a lot of trouble tying it to how they fit into the story altogether. Like, they still got to figure out how. You have no idea how they're going to shoehorn in Miss Marvel or, Moon Knight. It's clear, like She-Hulk, she's already in it. And she had the benefit of the Hulk, and everyone's dying for a Hulk movie. This may have even set up a new Planet Hulk, World War Hulk. It may have set that up. And then you're setting up the next generation of Daredevil during this show. I mean, I loved it. What did you guys think?
I mean, I loved it. I've been a She-Hulk fan just of the character for a while.
Yeah.
And so there's actually a couple of really good runs that have been put out recently in the comics. So I've always kind of really dug it. When they announced it, I was super excited. When they announced Tatiana Maslany as playing her, I was like, that's great casting.
Fantastic casting. She was awesome.
I do appreciate the fact that they didn't try to use her and then try to find someone else to play the She-Hulk version.
Oh, not do the Bill Bixby,
yeah,
Lou
I think
Ferrigno
doing
thing.
the motion capture worked. I mean, they showed that it worked with Ruffalo, and so
yeah,
I like the fact that they went ahead and just kept doing that with her. I think she's got the personality to pull it off. The character in the comics is very similar to how she's playing her. She is. Oh, did my sound come out?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Yep.
Pull that mic a little closer to you, though.
How's that?
Yeah, there you go. That's even deeper.
Okay.
Yep.
So I like the fact that, the character itself has kind of been not really featured heavily throughout the MCU at all.
No.
So it's nice they're bringing her in. She's got a very sarcastic tone. She's in, we saw it in the show a little bit, her breaking the fourth wall, Deadpool style.
But for before Deadpool,
but yeah,
right?
in the comics, she even kind of broke that fourth wall. So
it was great. She was like ripping through tiles. She would jump to other tiles, or she would talk to the writers. Mm-hmm. I mean, I thought that was great, and they just gave you a little taste of it in this, but I think that's going to work really well. I mean, obviously it works well with Deadpool because Ryan Reynolds is Ryan Reynolds, so it was very questionable, like, is she going to be able to pull it off? I think she did. Yeah,
I think so, and I'm I haven't watched the newest episode because it's today. That's where I'm going. As soon as I leave here, I'm going home and watch it.
Yeah.
It's also, I'll say that I love the fact that Marvel and Disney made that choice to not put them all out at once.
Yeah.
It sucks as a fan because you want it all. You've gotten used to, Netflix having just everything out immediately. But being able to have something to look forward to every week is nice. And so, this is, with all of the Marvel shows, people will have their opinions, but honestly, I haven't been disappointed with one yet.
Yeah.
I've liked each of them for their own thing. I liked how different they are, while also being similar.
Yeah, that's true. They've all have a different flavor for sure.
And even the ones that aren't made for everyone. Everyone's been complaining about Miss Marvel, about how the viewership hasn't been as high as the other shows. But if you look at that viewership and the demographic that's watching it are young, heavily people of color.
Yeah.
Which is what they need. They need to be more inclusive with everything. And you're starting to see that. I think they're showing that they're less worried about pleasing everyone and starting to find those kind of niche areas.
That was niche, 100%.
Where they can show, because, for me, Miss Marvel worked perfectly. It's not made for me, but I loved it.
Yeah.
It still worked for me 100%. But it's
Agreed.
also a show that my 11-year-old daughter loved as well, too. She may not care as much about Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Loki or even WandaVision, but she loved Miss Marvel, and it fit her personality and her style that she wants to watch. And it was kind of up to me to accept that and actually enjoy it, which was easy because it's such a good show.
Yeah. Well, here's the hot take, and I'm going to say it right here on television. I had trouble with it because it was made for a very specific audience that I didn't fit in. But I'm a mark for Marvel, so I muscled through, and I think it ended stronger than Moon Knight. That's my take, because Moon Knight, I was ready for, this is going to be Marvel's Batman. Let's do this. And it was good. Don't get me, I'm not saying it wasn't good, but I think Miss Marvel finished stronger and made more sense, where Moon Knight was just this encapsulated thing that, again, like you said, they're all at different levels, but I think Miss Marvel finished stronger.
I definitely agree. I think, honestly, Miss Marvel had one of my favorite episodes of any Marvel TV show. And spoiler alert.
Yeah. We got a new spoiler sting. We got to show you the new spoiler sting.
Nice. But, with Miss Marvel, that episode where we watch her go back and visit her ancestors.
Oh, that was good. Yeah,
that was such a beautifully shot episode. The whole episode was told wonderfully, and I enjoyed that episode of TV more than just about any other show. I mean, every show's kind of had a great episode here and there, but that 5th episode of Miss Marvel is up there with the rest of them.
I think that's when it started getting, like, because I even admit, like, the early episode I watched on Fast Forward, I'm like, okay, I think that little turn is when it started to get stronger and like pull me in. But I never read Miss Marvel, so I wasn't familiar. But when it came to She-Hulk, I love, there's Superman, Batman, and DC. That's always your tops. For me, Marvel always was represented by clearly Spider-Man and Incredible Hulk. I mean, those were my two. I mean, I know a lot of people say no X-Men, and then the later fans are going to say no Iron Man. But Iron Man I always saw as the B character compared to Hulk and Spider-Man. And Mario, I told you, I was hype train for She-Hulk. And I think it delivered on all fronts. And I was even trying to work on Ruffalo. Captain America's not a virgin. He lost his virginity in 1940 on a U.S. tour. I knew it. I mean, I was in bed at 2:30 in the morning, and I popped out loud to the point where the dog started barking. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I had to. Because Captain America, But Mario, what did you think? What did you think of Hulk? Because I know you were uncertain of it.
I'm still not sold on it, honestly.
You're still not sold.
No, I think they might have benefited. In my case, they might have benefited by releasing a couple of episodes. So I get into the show. I thought the first episode, the premiere felt really rushed, and like they were just cramming a lot of information in there. Not sold on the lawyer story. I just don't know what it is. It doesn't really feel right to me. I don't know if it's for me. And I was hoping, because I really used to like Ally McBeal. And I do like lawyer shows in general. I like,
yeah,
it feels like it's going for that, but I don't know. It's not working for me yet.
Well, I heard, and we watch a lot of other YouTubers out here reviewing this, and everybody, the critics got 4 episodes, the ones that are putting the ratings on.
Yeah, see, that makes sense, because I just don't feel like there was enough given to us in that first episode
to rate it. So supposedly that episode 4 is when things are going to break open for the people who are unsure of where this is going.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I said, I was just marking out. I love the slow motion scene in the car. Put that on our socials. I love the chopsticks with the Cheetos. I'm a Ruffalo guy, so I think he did. I think he added a lot to the show, and it actually tied a lot of the questions that people had about Endgame, because you realize, because at the end, the last time we saw Hulk was in Shang-Chi, and he still had the arm sling in, and you're like, how is he going to heal his arm? And they actually tied this, and like her blood is what healed his arm, and they tied that together. They explained on why she's better. They kind of got into the competition, not better, but different. But they always had that sibling rivalry because they're cousins, right? People are like, why were they fighting so much? Mario, I thought of you. I was like, is this their they live moment? Like the two heroes are fighting each other as hard as they can, but you realize they're Hulks. Of course that's how they're gonna fight. So I don't know. I think I do see what people are saying, but I feel like it did a really good job of honoring everything before it and how this is gonna fit into the future scheme, because she has to play a part coming up. And if it turns into Planet Hulk, where, because that ship, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, that is the ship from Thor Ragnarok, the the Jeff Goldblum character and that spaceship. So by changing that origin story, and he said, "Oh, I don't know why that ship was here. I got to look into that." And that's going to lead into, "Hey, you had a bunch of Hulk kids, and you got to come back to this planet. It's your kids, Marty. Something's got to be done about your kids." And he goes back to that planet. We have a Planet Hulk, and then we finally get a Hulk movie. I'm in.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what they do with Hulk going forward. We're kind of in this era of the MCU where we've had, that 10-year period with the first 3 phases technically, and going forward we have to change something. A lot of things are going to change. We're not going to have the same lineup, and they've already started sowing the seeds through the movies and the shows, bringing in possibly Young Avengers, things like that. So there's going to be a completely different lineup, but you're also going to have those nuggets, those kind of threads from that previous era, which is why you're going to need to have Hulk in somehow. You're going to need to have Thor and things like that to kind of thread through, but you're going to be transitioning into the new roster, basically. Yeah. And so you're going to have those kind of... People are going to have to let go of what's been before and embrace what's coming as well, too.
The pro wrestling rub, right? The legends have to give the rub to the new character so you get that new lineup is over. Although, here's a rumor, Mari, I don't know if you heard this or not, and Brian, I don't know if you heard this too. There's a rumor going around that at the end of the multiverse saga, which is ending with, the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, Feige might be done. And that's huge. So if he's going to go out, how do you top the Avengers Assemble scene in Endgame? Well, now you get the new heroes, the old, and then is that when you're going to bring back Old Man Cap? Is that when Tony's going to come in? Is that when Tom Cruise is going to be, you're going to have, the X-Men, the Fox X-Men, that might be the big moment. So you're going to have the rub for all these new characters, and what better way to give them the rub than having them stand next to Hugh Jackman just one time in Secret Wars, right? That establishes that they are part of this same universe, and then he might drop the mic after that. And
I don't see why not. He's made, by that point, he will have made close to 50 Marvel films, so
yeah.
He might be ready to move on.
And that's scary. Like, is that an RIP moment, as JJ put it, for the MCU if they don't have that one person? Because we see when you have lore and not somebody leading the way with vision, like in Star Wars, it's very shaky.
I think they're safe as long as they've got one hand on the wheel. I think where things get really things can get muddled is when you've got multiple folks trying to drive the MCU train.
Yeah.
Let someone's decisions be, like you said, with Vince McMahon. Someone's got to be the beginning and end of everything.
Yeah.
And you've got to designate that, and you've got to trust them. If you have everybody chiming in where it's just like, let's fix this, let's change this, things get muddled, the vision gets muddled, the direction gets, off the track. They've got to pick somebody and trust them.
Like they did with Feige, like they should be doing with Filoni. You got to have that one person that the buck stops with you. So it's still a hell of a run, even if that's the end. That's got to be never in the history of Hollywood that had something that hardcore since 2008, and then if he ends it in 2025 with a double header with Kang, if that's the direction it's going, oof, that's going to be so good. But let's jump back to Hulk, because there is something I want to ask both of you on this. I'm not much on... I see a lot of the stuff, the woke stuff. I don't always fully understand it, because I don't see problems with being inclusive and making sure everybody's included and make sure somebody never feels like, I think a joke is funnier when everyone's laughing, not when you're laughing at one person. So, but the thing about the woke heat that She-Hulk is getting is, we know she's always talked to the camera the way she did. We know she was smart alecky towards Hulk, and they have a sibling rivalry where I'm doing things better. She's always done that. And Brian, you read the comics. That's what she's always done. I am better than you at this. And it was supposed to be, that's what that boulder throwing contest, that wasn't woke. She's been doing that since the beginning to show that she was the better Hulk. Don't agree? I don't think it's as heavy-handed as people are saying.
No, I kind of feel like it's really just people bitching to bitch.
Yeah.
We saw the same thing with the new Star Wars trilogy, because everyone was saying, oh, Rey's such a Mary Sue. She's just so good at all this kind of stuff. If you want to talk about Mary Sue, look at Anakin Skywalker. He's building droids and pods as a small little child and all this kind of stuff. It's basically just people unhappy that something isn't exactly what they want it to be.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's kind of what nerd and geek culture has kind of slowly started turning in, not slowly, but has turned into.
Yeah.
And usually it's the vocal minority that shouts the loudest about that kind of stuff. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with, like you said, being more inclusive. You know, Miss Marvel's a prime example. Or even, you know, Moon Knight. Having, you know, an Egyptian cast, even though Oscar wasn't.
Yeah.
But bringing in people of that ethnicity. Same thing with Shang-Chi. And with Miss Marvel, bringing people of those ethnicities to tell a truer story. It doesn't matter if it's for you or not.
Right.
If the story is good and the story feels honest and true, that's all that matters.
That's all that really should matter.
Because in the end, it's going to find its audience, and as long as it's good. And they've really done a good job they've built that foundation of good storytelling. Like, even the worst Marvel movie is better than most of the best DC movies.
True.
Save a few. And so they've done a really good job of building up. They know what's going to tell a good story, even if it's the same story over and over again, which has been an issue that they've dealt with.
Yeah.
But they've got a handle on how to tell good stories and make these characters engaging. And now they've turned the focus on to who they're reaching and trying to cast that wider net to make sure that everyone has something. I mean, you didn't hear all these comparisons when Black Panther was coming out.
Oh,
and Black
man.
Panther is one of the best films they've done.
Oh,
And
hands down, yeah.
There's only a handful of white people in that movie.
Right.
But it's still beautiful and amazing. And so people were a little more accepting of that, I think, because it was a male character to begin with. And so you'll start seeing people pushing back against the female characters, which they historically have done. But Marvel has done a good job of basically saying, go fuck yourself. We're going to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
We're going to tell the stories we want to tell. We like these characters. And for the most part, most of the people complaining are the ones that really didn't know about the characters to begin with.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like Marvel's at this point now where, like, we don't care. What are you going to do, not go see our movie?
Right.
Well, then you'll get it spoiled for you. Everyone's going to come see our movies, so if they could be going Transformers right now and just putting out a crappy movie every 2 years.
Right.
And people are going to go see it because it's robots fighting each other. They care enough to
Robots in disguise.
Exactly. But they know enough to put a good story into it so that they can build this overall universe and keep people coming back, because there's a reason why no one really cares about a new Transformers movie, even though the last one was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and it's got to be, you got to care about these characters. You got to, it can't just be about the facts. And look, just to jump back really quick, not to sound like Jamie Kennedy on Scream, if you watch Prom Night, you save time. All they had to do to fix Rey is if you watch The Bourne Identity, you save time. That would fix everything. Somehow the Emperor comes back, did not fix everything. But if you turned it into The Bourne Identity, we're talking about a completely different story. Mari, I know you have a different take on this too. What is your take on the? Was it too woke? Not woke enough? Did you feel the wokeness?
I think the wokeness stands out because the She-Hulk. What's the name of the She-Hulk character?
Jennifer Walters.
Jennifer Walters. Yeah.
I feel like she doesn't have a whole lot to do. You know.
Yeah.
And I think that brings it out. You know, what is her main obstacle here at the beginning? Is she trying to be a top lawyer? Is she trying to get ahead at her job? I'm not really sure what she's doing. So I think when the woke stuff is like in there, it just stands out more.
You feel it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's over the top. I think everything is right on the money as far as like, you know, how things are today and the realities of life. Like when she's getting hassled by the guys at the bar. I thought that was really realistically done. You know what I mean? That's a true thing. But yeah, I don't really feel like I get what the show is at the moment.
Not yet.
I didn't read the comic, mind you. I never really followed it. I'm not sure what I was going to expect. It's somewhere in between an MCU show and a lawyer show, I guess.
Lawyer show.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you're calling it the MCU's Ally McBeal is the way it's going to go, but we're going to add some elements. It has the ability to, it's going to bring back great characters, right? We're going to get Abomination and see Emil Blonsky how he controlled that, and we saw him in Shang-Chi. I feel that's nice because I like the Ed Norton Hulk movie, and I don't think that should have been thrown away. I like that it's bringing that canon in, but it's going to be something different. And Brian, you said this, like each one of these Marvel shows is something completely different. And this is something that they haven't done before, right? They never did lawyer show, but they're going to put it like superhero style. So I think, though, with all of these shows, and that's include any Netflix show, whatever, these are so cinematic now that it's completely, you have to see all of them before you give your true judgment on it, right? Because we have a video out there, what finales stick the landing. Now, for these shows, which are going to be encapsulated, because no Marvel show has gotten a season 2 yet. Loki's going to be the only one. So we have to just assume, what if these are just the origin stories stuck in there? Did they stick the landing? And we can go back and do that with each Marvel show and see that. So I think we have 9 episodes. So we have 8 more to go, which is up there for a Marvel show. We got 8 more episodes to go. We got to see how they stick the landing, because right now they're focusing on the wokeness. The next thing they're going to be focusing on is how are they going to honor Daredevil, because Daredevil on Netflix was fantastic. And if that gets tweaked in any way where it's not, this isn't the Daredevil that I loved from Netflix, I think people are going to come with their torches. And the bots are going to come with their torches because they're there just to keep lighting the flame. Right?
Well, I think they've also already done it a little bit where they've shown that it's not going to be the same, because we saw Kingpin pop up in Hawkeye, which Hawkeye was another one of my favorite shows.
That's the holiday show. You're going to go back. Mario called that, right? This the Lethal Weapon 2 of Marvel shows.
I've always loved Hawkeye. My wife has a huge thing she likes to mess with me about, because when it comes to like the MCU, if there was one guy that I'm like, I want to hang out with him, it's going to be Jeremy Renner. I've always liked him, and I've always liked him as Hawkeye. So I was already predetermined to love this show. Yeah. But seeing Kingpin pop up was a great little tease, and he's not the same Kingpin from the Netflix show.
He's slightly tweaked, I agree.
It's a slightly different version, and I think they've kind of bought themselves the credit by introducing the multiverse in a way to where they can write themselves those kind of loopholes to where they can say that the Netflix shows were basically, an alternate timeline that was almost identical, but not quite, just a little bit different, much like they did with Multiverse of Madness. And so it's okay if it's not the exact same show and tone even. I loved the Daredevil Netflix show. I loved Jessica Jones. I loved The Punisher. I loved all those except for, Iron Fist.
Iron Fist.
Nobody likes Iron Fist.
I'm rich. So they've bought themselves a bit of leeway in being able to change that kind of stuff. And quite honestly, I'm almost interested to see where they go with it. Yeah. Because,
I agree.
While the Netflix show was good, I think the Netflix shows kind of held their own and exist in that kind of their own little world. Yeah. And by bringing in those same characters and maybe having them face a little bit different situation or just act a little bit differently, I don't think that's going to be the end of the world in the way that most people are terrified that it's going to be.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think you're 100% right. DC, if Ezra Miller would stop beating people up, we would see that they're trying to do the same thing and find a way to go back and retroactively.
Sidebar, he apologized for that.
He did, right? Yeah, did you buy that apology?
His agent had it written on a napkin.
Did the new CEO write the apology for him? But yeah, well, still, again, that's what they're trying to do, retroactively bring all these things into canon, but alternate universe, multiverse canon. So, because a lot of them still have, other than, like you said, Iron Fist, they want to see these characters represented by the same actors, because none of the performances were bad, even when the story wasn't bad. I couldn't believe that Defenders didn't work. I expected to see Avengers Infinity War on Netflix as the Defenders, and it was just okay. Like, it wasn't bad, but I really wanted it to be. I was literally like Jessica Jones, who I loved in that first season of Jessica Jones. Whew, that is so good. But she's like, I felt like her. Does everybody know karate? Like, she literally dropped that, and it was, to me, that was almost very meta, very telling.
Yeah, I'll say I enjoyed Defenders for what it was. Yeah. It definitely wasn't what I was hoping and what they had hyped it up to be a little bit, because they did kind of hype it up as the Netflix version of a team up. Yeah. I will say the saving grace that I wasn't expecting is that show did the miraculous thing and made me actually care about Iron Fist a little bit.
Yeah,
because,
that's true. He did come out the strongest in that.
Tying him with Luke Cage worked.
Right, this Defenders for Hire, right?
Yeah,
That's what they did, yeah.
Doing his solo show just did not work for me at all.
Yeah.
Watched it, but it wasn't really anything. But bringing him in that with the dynamic between him and Luke and Mike Coulter as Luke Cage really worked, and that was one of the few things that actually surprised me a little bit about Defenders, is they actually made me somewhat turn around on a character that I'd kind of just written off.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I know we're jumping off She-Hulk, but I got to ask this. Can we see Finn Jones get the Andrew Garfield treatment if MCU gets him? Right? Because Andrew Garfield was not liked and respected as Spider-Man. I'm sorry, I remember he wasn't. And then when you saw him from Far From Home, he got so much love and he got the roses thrown and everybody, and rightfully so. He was one of the best parts of that film. Can that happen with Finn Jones? Can Kevin Feige, because you want him to book it. I think you're setting a precedent, right? You're going to get Berthenol back as one of the best Punishers. Good. You already got Charlie Cox, you got D'Onofrio. Hopefully you're getting Jessica Jones. You're getting all the same actors. Can they be like, we're just not going to hire Finn Jones? Can you do that?
So I'll come in here with my hot take first.
Okay.
When it comes to Spider-Man, I think Spider-Man 2 is probably one of my favorite Spider-Man movies.
The Raimi Doc Ock one?
The Raimi Doc Ock one.
Yep.
Because that was also when I was in my 20s, and it was,
Yeah.
that was the kind of movie that I was like, oh, this is what a superhero movie can be. I think Tom Holland is probably my favorite. I think he's the closest we've really gotten to a true
Peter Parker
Spider-Man. But I loved Andrew Garfield more than I did Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
As Spider-Man.
In the original movies or in the Far From Home when
in the
he came
original
back?
movies.
Oh, okay.
I really dug Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2.
Okay.
I like the fact that they didn't focus on Mary Jane because everyone had gotten so used to Mary Jane. And plus, I've always loved Gwen Stacy more.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that they focused on her and they didn't make her as much of a damsel. So I really enjoyed his movies. I understand why people don't. But I think that those two movies are stronger than obviously Spider-Man 3. But even I think they hold their own against the original Spider-Man that Raimi did. I don't think they're going to top 2, but I do think that they hold their own with the original Sam
one.
Raimi.
Okay.
And so getting through all of that, it may sound harsh, but Finn Jones didn't do it for me as Iron Fist.
Not at all.
I was never, I didn't read comics as a kid. And I'm just coming this as a comic lover as an adult. And I've read some Iron Fist, but he didn't really embody the character that I've read in the way that I would have wanted to. He, to me, seemed the way he played him was a little too whiny, a little too just kind of douchey in a way. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to have likability in with the douchiness.
Yeah.
And he really just and maybe it was the writing, but nothing really did that for me to make me care that much about him, which is why Defenders was such a surprise when I actually enjoyed seeing him on screen.
Yeah. He was better in that.
It's hard to be a likable douche.
Yeah.
That's a tough
It's
that's
a skill.
acting
Hey,
job.
It's a skill.
I somehow manage it, so I'm just going to go with that. So if Feige decides not to bring him back, I'm not going to be heartbroken. If he shows up, cool. I know who he is, but it's not going to be the heartbreak. I would much rather see them bring back Mike Coulter as Luke Cage because I think what they were doing with that character would have been really well received if it had kept going on. There are rumors out that Kristen Ritter is going to show up in She-Hulk in a cameo role as Jessica Jones,
right?
Which I think works really well because in the comics they have a relationship.
They have a rapport, right?
Yeah.
And she's a private investigator. A lawyer would hire a private investigator. It's in Lawyer Show. It makes sense to have that in there. So, again, I don't know, and maybe I'm just, again, besides being such a huge Hulk universe mark, I just feel like this show has so much potential to really create all these different strings and tie a lot of stuff together. And we want that continuity, right? We've come to expect it with Marvel, that they are the Dean Malenko of movies where there is no wasted movement. When they grab a hold, it rolls to another hold, grab an office, another hold, high spot, and you never see the gaps. And that's why I feel like this could help tie that together.
And I think it's going to take some time too. I think WandaVision was the perfect example because when WandaVision first came out, those first 3 episodes, nobody knew what the fuck was going on.
Well, Mario and I were just talking about that. That was like our first, Those Incredibles' first foray into YouTube, was trying to review WandaVision. We go back and they're like, wait, we had no idea what was going on.
Because the show wasn't finished and they just released footage.
Yeah, it's just
it was just an hour's worth of footage.
Yeah, it was like, why didn't you start with episode 4 where it all could have kind of made sense? Because, again, we were all locked up for so long. We were just happy to be getting content. But, yeah, you hit the nail on the head with WandaVision.
But I also think that's what they kind of had to break the mold in a way. Everyone has this idea of what Marvel is. And they basically, to Feige's credit, was like, you know what? No. We can surprise you still. And because, like, even those first few episodes, I loved that I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah. Oh, the speculation was rampant.
And that's kind of fun for fans, too, because then you have them poring over every episode looking for a single clue and whatnot. So I almost like the fact that they didn't.
That's not a good binge show, right? Because it made you think about what was coming next.
Exactly.
So that was perfect for a week-to-week drop versus a binge.
Yeah.
So, and when I saw Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, when they said there's somebody I need to talk to, and they showed the house and they showed her and
you
the
hear
music,
that little tune.
Yeah, and the crowd popped. I wanted pops. I want pops, Mario. We talked about it. We have a video. We want pops in our movie. Mm-hmm. And Doctor Strange was very void of pops. Even, Mr. Fantastic did not get the pop that we hoped. Even Jim from The Office was basically a superhero. I popped, but everyone else
popped though. He turned into spaghetti and then he exploded.
Lots of spaghetti. So we wanted that pop, but Wanda got the pop. Daredevil in No Way Home got a huge pop when he got a big pop, so we want those pops in there. So
I want to see the page of the Darkhold that has the spell for exploding spaghetti. Turn someone into exploding spaghetti with the wave of your hand.
Yes, we want to do it. Mara, I got to bring this up to you before we close out on the Hulk spot.
I didn't even use the She-Hulk thing I had right here.
Oh, you got one there. Yeah, I'll need that before we make our stuff. But this will be good. You can still throw it up there because this is going to be relevant. I feel like, knowing your film taste like I know it, I feel like you are an Eric Bana guy. And I'm even going to go back before Edward Norton. I'm going to Eric Bana, Incredible Hulk. What was your feeling on him as Incredible Hulk pre-MCU? You got to be a Bana guy, right? I feel like he's kind of like your flavor.
I don't think that movie really worked. The original Hulk with Eric Bana?
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of that one.
No, but like, how did you feel about like him as Hulk?
I mean, that was a solid casting at the time. I think Ruffalo is probably the best.
Ruffalo's
but I don't have any particular.
I think Nick. I don't know about Nick Nolte as Absorption Man. I think that took a lot of people out because he just had that mugshot at the time too, so it was a little weird, and he was a little bit more rubbery. I know Ang Lee was coming off of, was that around Crouching Tiger time?
Around that time, Ang Lee was hot.
And he was trying to do the comic tiles, which I had no heat with that. It was fine. It was weird to see Phil Dunphy in there. Going back and watching that, I was like, I don't remember Phil Dunphy in the Hulk.
Well, everybody was still trying to figure out how to make a comic book movie at the time.
Yeah.
So it was a swing. I think Feige nailed it and Favreau with Iron Man, which really kind of set the tone. But I honestly I can't really remember much about that movie. It didn't really work for me. No.
It didn't really stick with you. So not even.
I mean, look, I'm right from Bill Bixby. I had no heat with Edward Norton. But Ruffalo is the king, probably.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. I do think that they honored by changing the origin story of She-Hulk, where instead of her getting shot by a mobster, they had the car accident, and being a Bill Bixby Incredible Hulk mark, that scene of seeing a car accident and somebody about to Hulk out just brought you back to the opening credits.
Did you think the whole blood gimmick was a little contrived, though? Hulk's blood just gets on her cut? I mean, I don't know. It seemed...
Well, I mean, I think that would have caused a huge loophole if they did that. But I think going back to the lab and explaining that the only reason that worked was because of the matching DNA, because then they went back to the Eric Bana Hulk, right? Or is this the Edward Norton Hulk when the blood dripped in the soda and then it killed basically Stan Lee, to show that his blood is toxic? So it would have killed her if it wasn't matching DNA. So I was kind of okay with that. It was very convenient for sure.
It was pretty convenient.
It could have been a lot more organic.
I
But
thought there could have been much more story had they done it the original way, where maybe he's got to decide whether or not he should give her a blood transfusion to save her life and make her a Hulk. The idea of just blood shot out of me and got into your cut just seems, I don't know, it's a little Walking Deadish or something.
You're right. They probably could have added they could have added a scene and then added a little bit of drama of like, do I curse her with what I'm dealing with, or do I let her die?
Yeah.
And that it could have. So I do see what you're saying there. That could have added a lot of weight to that.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna say this. Like, I know it's just as a closer end thing. I'm on the fence now about comic book fatigue. I might be getting there.
You're getting there?
I might be getting there. I don't know. I really feel the shows have been fairly strong, but I still, I made this point before, I feel like they almost devalue the movies. They don't feel like they're on the same level. And once you take a character out of a movie and put them on a show, I feel like now you've taken them out of WWE and they're in NWA. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just feels that way. TV's always had that feel. So I'm not sure. So I'm not a Marvel hater. I've been a fan. I enjoy all the movies, and I'll still go to every movie.
Yeah.
You know? But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes, because I feel like I'm not the only one who's on the fence.
No, I think people are definitely feeling the fatigue, and I think you're right. And I'm going to go back to what I was talking about before, where you can't judge the show until you see all the episodes.
Give us 4 episodes.
I think Phase 4 was definitely shaky because it felt, other than the pandy, I think there was a lot of experimentation going on and a lot of new ground. Like, we were all shocked at, like, how are you going to have a Marvel property that is basically a TV show, right, that we're going to stream? So we didn't even know what to expect. And I think we had a lot of people's expectations were super high coming off of, Spider-Man Far From Home and Endgame, and then all of a sudden now we're getting TV shows, and I think that's why people are overhyped for Wanda, overhyped for Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I think everybody has varying degrees of if they worked, but I think in the long run, when you see the entire saga, and I hate to say, sorry, you got to stick around for, Phase 4, 5, and 6, when you see how important what happened with He Who Remains in Loki, and you're going to realize how important that is, I think then we're going to be able to judge to see if the experiment of having Marvel television worked. Because I feel like as bad as much heat as Book of Boba Fett is getting, that end season 2 finale of The Mandalorian was cinematic to the point where you feel like that could sit next to the Star Wars films. I'd watch that season of Mandalorian in the theater probably quicker than I'd watch, the Disney trilogy at home.
Well, I think we're also in an interesting time too, because mixed with entering this new phase and having to introduce all these new characters and then bringing the TV shows, I think we've seen, the characters who've come down to the TV shows from the films have done really well, but we haven't really seen any of these TV characters pop up in a film yet.
Exactly.
And I think that's what's and we know it's coming. But like you said, when we saw Daredevil pop up in Spider-Man, that was a huge pop.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because we saw someone from something that had already been off for a while, but it came from TV and we thought we were never going to see it. We saw it happen, and it was a huge kind of pop like that. I do think we're going to see that. I think some of these characters, as they're brought into the films, will start resonating a little bit more like that. And we know with Miss Marvel, she's going to pop up in the new Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah,
that's all. It's literally called The Marvels, and she's part of that. Yeah, she's in there. And so I think we're going to start seeing that with these characters. I really want to see. I'll harp on it all day. I loved Hawkeye, and I absolutely loved the way they did Kate Bishop.
Yeah, oh yeah, she was good.
And so I want to see her, with Yelena especially. I want to see that in a film kind of thing. Oh man,
Yelena's fantastic.
I think once they start bringing them in and starting mixing those TV-only characters into the films, I think we might be able to hopefully re-energize a little bit. Not that it's gotten really stale for me at least, but it's what we always wanted. We always wanted the films to kind of tie together, which is what they started doing with the MCU. And so I'm hoping that this is going to give them the ability, almost like reading a comic, when you have some random character who just pops up in your favorite comic. That's my hope, is it'll be like that. You can bring in these characters organically because they've already laid the groundwork for it. and hopefully the future movies can be better for it.
Man, I think you're right. I think you guys nailed it. I think we need to see the television heroes in a film that's going to raise them, to give them the rub. Again, because if we go, again, going back to what the pop Wanda got, if we go back to Avengers Age of Ultron, Wanda felt like a second tier character, and now she feels like she's in the starting lineup. So they built her. It's almost like a wrestling storyline where they gave her enough of the right matches in the mid card to get her to now she's a main event player. They need to do that with more characters for sure.